course, it's better to start with incentives, I think, because the Iranian side has been always emphasizing on this narrative of resistance, as they say. Part of which has been sort of this hostile narrative, or at least stubbornness, I would say, towards countries like Saudi Arabia, who are deemed the U.S. partners, U.S. allies in the region, and as a result, unfriendly countries toward Iran. So what has changed that caused Iran to come to terms with Saudi Arabia? That's very important, and I see two general categories playing a role here, one domestic, another one external. And the domestic factors have been or are primarily related to the dire economic situation in the country, and the economic and, of course, socio-political crisis that Iran has been struggling with, especially since mid last year, again, with, related to the protests. Because on the one hand, the Islamic Republic has lost to a great extent its public legitimacy, and so it's quite obvious in terms of the extent of the protests all over the country, from different social classes, from different ages. People from different generations, better to say. So in that sense, there is already a socio-political crisis, and that can be deteriorated due to economic factors, because the kind of desire to revive the 2015 nuclear agreement basically failed, partly because of Iran's delay tactics, but also especially after Iran took side with Russia, technically, in the war against Ukraine. The Western side is also not really interested in going ahead with diplomacy as such with Iran. So in that sense, the sense in Iran is that the sanctions are going to remain, at least for the time being. So there might be some alternative. And over the past few weeks, better to say in the weeks prior to the agreement with Saudi Arabia, there was an unprecedented trend in the fall of the value of Iran's currency, for example, and almost all economic indicators have been very negative. So in that sense, Iran has been looking for an alternative in order to at least partly alleviate this economic pressure. And who would be better fitting for this than the rich Arab countries of the Persian Gulf? And of course, if China is also there, even better. So this is part of the calculation. To what extent it's going to be material is a different matter. Maybe we can mention that also down the road. But let me also briefly mention the external factors. The external factors are primarily regional and security in nature. And here I'm talking about specifically about the Abraham Accords. Since 2020, Israel started this process of normalization with Arab countries, first with the UAE and shortly afterwards with Bahrain. And then there has been talks about Israel also normalizing ties with other Arab and Muslim countries. And more recently, especially since Netanyahu came to power again, there was this idea that Saudi Arabia may sooner or later join the Abraham Accords. And this is a game changer because, UAE, Bahrain, others, regardless of, especially in the case of UAE, for example, regardless of the economic power that UAE is already, but in terms of the ideological, political, diplomatic capacities, Saudi Arabia is different. Saudi Arabia is seen as the leader of the Sunni world. So normalizing with Saudi Arabia would mean opening for Israel, of course, opening the door to the Muslim world, basically, the remaining countries. Again, back to Iran, there have been, we've seen this sort of nuclear escalation on the Iranian side, increasing the level of uranium enrichment, etc., etc. And in that sense, the risk of escalation between Israel and Iran has been increasing. In that sense, a coalition between Israel and Arab states would be very detrimental to Iran in the case of a conflict. So Iran wanted to neutralize basically those Arab countries and basically making them neutral. And of course, it is also in the interest of Arab countries as well, because they don't want to be caught in the crossfire of any confrontation between Iran and Israel. So in that sense, the Israeli factor has played a very important role. So these are basically the main logics, I would say, behind Iran going for a better relationship with Saudi Arabia at this time.